From WGCU News, this is Gulf Coast Life. I'm Mike Kiniry. It's all hands on deck right now when it comes to relief efforts across southwest Florida in the wake of Hurricane Ian, which made landfall as a strong Category 4 hurricane near Sanibel Island on Wednesday, September 28th in the early afternoon. So far in total, Hurricane Ian has caused at least 137 fatalities, including 126 in Florida. The storm caused catastrophic damage, with losses currently estimated between $28 and $63 billion. Damage is mostly from flooding, with the cities of Fort Myers Beach and Naples particularly impacted. For the first part of today's show, we're going to learn about the work being done right now by the United Way of Lee, Hendry, Glades, and Okeechobee. They're partnering with the Collaboratory in downtown Fort Myers, which is raising money through the Southwest Florida Emergency Relief Fund. To get a sense of what they're focusing right now and the work they're doing managing the 211 crisis helpline, I'm joined on the phone by Jeannine Joy. She's president and CEO of the United Way of Lee, Hendry, Glades, and Okeechobee. Jeannine, thank you so much for taking some time out of your surely busy day to talk with us.
Thank you for having me.
For starters, can you just go back to right before the storm and as it approached, what do you guys do at that point to prepare yourself for what might happen? And then we'll talk about what you're doing now.
In general, United Way is 211 is a number that's available 24 hours, 7 days a week. But when we go into a disaster mode or crisis mode, or there's a hurricane coming, we start taking the storm hotline calls for the county. So a couple days before the storm, we were actually at EOC with our staff doing call-outs to the special needs shelter population to make sure that if they didn't have transportation, we could get them there. And then by 4 o'clock on Tuesday, there were 9 of us that were going to ride out the storm there at EOC and take calls, and that ended up being, 2 days before we could leave safely through the storm. So it was nonstop. The phones were ringing the whole time.
So you never did lose the ability to receive phone calls?
No, because we're at the Emergency Operations Center, we took calls the whole night. And I think that, the calls started out more like people wanting to know where their evacuation, were they in a zone that was evacuated, where was shelter, to then during the middle of the night when the storm started to get really bad, we were getting calls from people who had water up to their neck, didn't know how to swim, were panicking, and then we'd lose a phone call. So we don't know what happened to those callers, but we can only assume that it wasn't good.
What are the kinds of information that you're able to provide, or the programs or systems you're able to connect people to through the crisis phone line?
Well, at first it was points of distribution after the storm, so where people could get food and water. There is still a lot of food and water available, and we're still pointing people to that, but now it's more about where can we get recovery and relief. We cannot stress enough that people need to get to the Disaster Recovery Center. That is the best place to go right now. So FEMA can actually, instead of trying to do that application online, there are FEMA representatives there as well as other agencies, and people can go through that, and FEMA will walk you through it and make sure that you are signed up for whatever you're eligible for. It's such a great program, and I encourage everyone to go to that Disaster Recovery Center.
There's a number of them open. Do you happen to have at your fingertips where they are, just to tell people who might be listening that can't get on the internet?
Right. Well, you can always call 211. And they can point you to the one that's closest to you. But the one that has the most resources right now is located at Lakes Regional Library off of Gladiolas Drive. And it's not only the FEMA representatives there, but also other agencies as well that can help, people sign up for DSNAP or disaster unemployment and those things. So that would be the most comprehensive location, but our United Way 211 can direct you to one that's closer to you with at least FEMA.
Can you explain sort of the scope of the work you're doing right now beyond, answering this phone system and directing people to resources?
Sure. Right now we are trying to make sure that our nonprofits are coming up and running and providing services, because while we're still in response and relief mode, there are other services that still need to be happening within our community. And so, things like Children's Advocacy Center, abuse and, doesn't stop. because of a storm. So making sure that these agencies are up and running and providing services, and then getting the extra dollars they need to provide more services for their clients that are coming in is so key and important right now. So we're making sure we're staying in communication. We're supporting the agencies with a lot of gifts and kind donations. So when they have a need, we're able to transport that. We're working with all of the agencies on coordinating mass feeding. So people like Salvation Army and Harry Chapin Food Bank and the Red Cross, we're coordinating, knowing where everyone is. And also when we hear about a pocket of our area that needs help that maybe isn't getting it, we're able to direct those agencies to those areas as well.
Like I mentioned at the top of the show, the Collaboratory in downtown Fort Myers, which used to be the Southwest Florida Community Foundation, they're raising money for the Southwest Florida Emergency Relief Fund. How is that effort going, and how are you redirecting that money at this point?
The partnership we have with Collaboratory is absolutely fantastic. They allow us to do the response and the relief efforts that we need to do and raise the money and handle a lot of the back end that needs to be handled, like the thank yous and the receipts and everything, and then they turn the money over to United Way. And then we assess the needs, just like I was mentioning about the agencies. And one of the things that we know that there's a great need for right now is people to replace things that they've lost, or just have that stopgap before the FEMA money comes in. So immediately last week, we went ahead and purchased $75,000 worth in Visa gift cards. It takes a little while for those to get printed and get here, but we have those that we're going to be handing out. We've already been doing some other gift cards that we've had in hand just to bridge the gap for those people as other services and things come in. And we're working through our partner agencies to get those out to the community.
Are you working with other United Way branches, or however they're described? I don't know if branches is the right term, but there are other United Ways like yourself. Are you coordinating with them?
We are, and we are actually working with the entire state as far as United Ways across the state, because a lot of them have resources that they can send over. They're also raising funds for our area, and we're working together with, of course, Charlotte and South Sarasota County and, Collier County and all the surrounding United Ways, just to make sure that we're working smarter, not harder, and we want to make sure that we're sharing best practices and making sure that we are meeting the needs that we can.
How is your staff doing right now? I don't know how large it is, but how are they doing? Because, it's difficult to help sometimes when you need help yourself.
It is. We have 73 staff members. They are all accounted for and safe. And they have varying degrees of damage, just like everyone in our community. But I think one of the things that they've seen is that the need is so great, and our community was hit so hard that they're, even if they're tired, they are coming in and they are making sure that, they're doing their part for the relief and response efforts right now. Just a dedicated group of team members who are pushing themselves. I keep reminding everyone self-care. We do have volunteer opportunities that are not only, throughout the community, but also within the call center to help some of our staff get the breaks that they need. And people can sign up for that by going to volunteer.unitedwaylee.org. And if they go there, they can sign up and see all the different opportunities that are available out there.
Okay, we'll have a link to that on our website as well. But you are then able to, if somebody wants to volunteer right now, you're going to be able to turn them around and get them helping as quickly as possible?
Yes, and we imagine that in the next 2 weeks we'll have even more opportunities. There's still a lot of areas where they're assessing damage, and the relief is still there, and it might be too dangerous for some places yet to get those volunteers. So I know last count we had over 600 registered and had deployed over 300. So we're working with those volunteer opportunities. We did a food distribution at our main campus in Harlem Heights on Saturday and Sunday, and we had a bunch of volunteers come in and help for that, and just making sure that people had food and water and diapers and, feminine care products. People don't think about everything that these families lost. And I know in Harlem Heights, for instance, there were several feet of water that came into this area, and people had to appliances are gone, mattresses are gone, all of those things. So we're just trying to help the community and in all areas, not just Harlem Heights, get back on their feet.
Can people donate things like that to you, physical things, not just money?
Well, and this is where it gets interesting. There's a terminology after a disaster, and it's called the second disaster. And this is why I try to explain to people that dollars can be turned around faster than things. We had someone who actually called and said, I want to send a semi-truck full of clothes, brand new clothes, down to the area. And the logistics of that was going to be a nightmare because you have to have volunteers that sort. You have to have a location to store them if they don't go out right away. Then you have to get them to the people. And things take a lot more time and effort and energy than us being able just to say, okay, we need a truckload of, we need this at this location, or just handing somebody a gift card to let them go out and buy the clothes themselves. One of the things that we see during this is that, people need that sense of dignity. They've already been picking up food and water for themselves, and if we can give them the ability to actually go out and purchase the clothes that are going to work for them, fit them right, their style, all of that, it just gives them that sense of dignity. So I know some people really do want to give things. I would suggest that you work with somebody who, if you're working with a church or whatever, they have a plan for that, and you have a place where you can drop it off. Because good intentions by everyone, but I just know that it can be overwhelming to get a ton of tangible stuff.
Understood. Well, that is all the time we have for this part of the show, but I want to thank my guest. Jeannine Joy is President and CEO of the United Way of Lee Hendry, Glades, and Okeechobee. Jeannine, thank you so much for your time and for the work that you and your team are doing right now.
Well, thank you for having us, and don't forget, dial 211.
And if you'd like to support the Southwest Florida Emergency Relief Fund, go to the Collaboratory's website at collaboratory.org.